Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. Glad to have you with us on another episode of Ultimate Rivals Sports Talk. I'm Hali Oughton, he's BreakyCPK, and today we're here to talk everything Ultimate Rivals and what's going on in sports across the country. Breaky, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. There's definitely been, we had the week off, obviously, last week, and I think it's for good reason, and people tuning in, hopefully you've seen by now, we did our first, I guess you could call it, announcement of the court. It's going to be coming out. We're going to be talking about that here in a second as well, so super pumped about that, but happy to be back and ready to talk more sports, and there's definitely some decent stories to get to.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of news coming out surrounding Ultimate Rivals last week. So while we may not have been with you here on Twitch last Wednesday, there was no shortage of content and exciting news going out. And yes, we're going to talk about that a lot this afternoon. But first, make sure to head to ultimaterivals.com. It's a great hub for anything surrounding the rink, as well as our upcoming title, The Court. And always, you can get into the conversation on Discord as well. But first, before we get to any of that, let's bring up this week's poll. And one of the hot topics in the NFL is, of course, surrounding the quarterback situation in Seattle. And we want to know, do you think Russell Wilson will end up being traded from the Seahawks? So leave us your thoughts right here. Certainly a big name and a team that I imagine would like to try to keep their quarterback in Seattle. But we've seen a few quarterbacks, Breaky, this offseason express the interest to be traded.
Yeah, it's been quite the carousel. I was talking about that actually on the streams that I do on Tuesday, just by myself hanging out with Chad, and I kind of just started that conversation, with my chat a little bit right there. It's thinking about it. This has been an intense offseason, especially when it comes to the quarterbacks. And like I said, the word carousel comes to mind. Really just a lot of movement, and Russell Westbrook is certainly did I do it again? I don't know why.
You did it again.
Every time we talk, I did this when we talked about it before.
You might
for whatever
be better off by going on a first name basis. Maybe just Russell.
Just say Russell. No, Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks, the quarterback currently for them. It's again. We'll talk about it a little bit later on as well, but it's looking like it's very possible. But we'll see. He's obviously a great quarterback, and Seattle surely wants him in the end. So.
Ricky, I can't blame you. Your brain works now in sport crossover because in Ultimate Rivals, Russell Westbrook could be a quarterback potentially one day
True.
if we, have a potential football title coming to fruition. So there's anything can happen in Ultimate Rivals. So I don't blame you for crossing over in sports when this is the world we live in on a daily basis, and it is a very exciting one. And we got to talk about it a lot last week, on social channels and. Through tons of different pieces that came out on Ultimate Rivals, The Court, which is coming soon here this year. Breaky, initial thoughts? I know you guys hopped on a stream last night. People got to even see The Court be played for kind of one of the first times. We've seen a trailer, so some exclusive first looks at this game, and it is getting quite the buzz, quite the reaction. I think people are really excited to finally get their hands on this game here, hopefully soon.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we had the Game Informer article come out last week, and that was kind of the first tease, the sneak peek at what's to come with the court. So getting a lot of that out there was really cool to see the reaction even from that. But this is why I also love our CEO, Ben Friedland. It just randomly, I gotta say, he's just like, you know what? Let's just do a stream. Let's just stream the game, and like, okay. I mean, it's obviously still a work in progress. We're getting there. We've evolved quite a bit, but still work to be done. And we saw that yesterday as well. To an extent, but we also got to show off a lot of the polish on the game that is certainly already there, and what we've been so hyped about and talking about. And I would like to think, obviously some biases there, sure, but I would like to think that what we've gotten to show now between the article that's come out and the stream that we did, especially last night, is really backing up the idea that we got something special brewing with the court. So happy to finally get at least a little bit of it out there.
Yeah, it's definitely when you get a first look at this game, you can't help but think, wow, what the heck is happening? I mean, it's crazy. It's arcade style. The dunking is absolutely insane. Just high scoring, tons of fun. And again, it's so cool because you can make up your dream team of basketball players, football players. We're gonna, come out with some legends in the game. There's all these different players from both past and present that come into this game that are going to make it super fun to create just a wide variety of different types of teams. And first coming to the Apple Arcade, but also exciting, Breaky, we launched our Steam page this week. So while you can't pre-order the game, you can join the wish list on Steam, which we encourage you to do. And there's definitely some other exclusive looks at screenshots, trailers, concept art of athletes that you can play in the game. So that's just another great hub for fans and people anxiously awaiting the launch of this game to go to.
Yeah, I'm showing it right now on stream, and
the
Steam page that you're talking about right there. Yeah, obviously very, very happy to be on Apple Arcade, and they're the ones that have definitely helped us out in a lot of ways, getting Ultimate Rivals going here and on their platform and everything. But, we've always mentioned what the future. Ben, our CEO, going back to him, is talking about PC and console, and to announce that we're going to be, the plans are to go on Steam and have that page officially up is a cool feeling as well, knowing what the future holds. So excited for that.
Yeah.
Get on that wish list.
Those without iPhones and Apple devices, there is hope. There is a future. It will come. It will be here. All right, good stuff. Let's move on. Let's talk sports. We mentioned the quarterback situation in Seattle, but one that people, it seems to have been taking over conversations just about every sports show I watch. People have been talking endlessly about what the Dallas Cowboys are going to do with their quarterback, Dak Prescott, and we finally have clarity. Prescott will be staying in Dallas. The 27-year-old, he achieved a 4-year, $160 million deal.
Money.
Essentially making him the highest paid player in NFL history. So we all kind of saw it trending this direction. The longer and longer this was drawn out, Dak certainly, as time went on, I think getting more and more leverage and achieving quite a deal for a 27-year-old QB. Not too bad. I mean, we've seen it with Mahomes, but now to see Dak even achieve more than Patrick Mahomes is insane.
Where to start with this? Well, so what you're getting at, the record really comes in that the first year. He's going to be making $75 million in the first year alone. That's the big chunk of that contract is going for that. So, yes, a lot of this contract is coming from the Dallas Cowboys realizing, and Jerry Jones specifically, that, okay, yeah, he's actually done more. He's outperformed his previous contract by, tenfold, right? That's already been known. But, they went through all the negotiations the last year especially. They didn't come to terms, and ultimately Dak Prescott decided to not sign a renewal and decided to go with the contract that he's currently on, and, hopes that it could pay off in the end. Now, suffering that injury that he did this last year, that's always the risk involved. And when that happened, it's like, did he just really screw himself out of a lot more money potentially? Well, the answer is no. we find out now. The answer ultimately comes back to no. And Dallas Cowboys, say what you want about Dak Prescott and whether or not you like him as a quarterback. Jerry Jones loves him, clearly, because that's the only way that he got this contract, and he definitely has all the faith in the world that he is going to be able to lead them to, of course, ultimately the Super Bowl is the big dream there. But I mean, Haley, we know why Dallas, they like to stick by their guy here in this case. But do you think he really deserved this?
Honestly, I was just about to. That's where I was going next. And one of my favorite people to listen to when it comes to breaking down stuff, especially in the NFL. I don't know if you watch him, but it's Dan Orlovsky. And I was watching something that he said last week, and I'm like, you know what? That is so true. I thought it was such a good take, was that Dak Prescott, he's a really good quarterback.
Yeah.
Like any organization would be lucky to have Dak Prescott. But is he a great quarterback? I don't know. And Dak hasn't, he hasn't won a Super Bowl in Dallas. He hasn't experienced some of the success or, the records that a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, for instance, has achieved early on in his career. So I agree with him. I think Dak is a good quarterback. He's a really good quarterback, but I don't know that he's a great quarterback and a quarterback that should be the highest paid in the NFL. I don't know if he's there yet. It's nothing against Dak. I think, like I said, I think he's really good. But I think you're kind of overpaying. And I think for Dak, what's, going to be the biggest issue is when you spend that much money on your quarterback, are you taking away from the tools around him? And I think for somebody like him, I think he needs those tools around him and those players. So
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, obviously he's going to have Ezekiel Elliott. He's coming off the signing that his own contract from last year. He has a great offensive line around him. That's one of the strengths that Dallas has always been for the last 30 plus years or even longer. I mean, they always make sure to get that offensive line. So it does feel like the core, I mean, of course, the quarterback kind of completes that. So now Dallas is finally, I guess you could say, in a spot of, all right, now the pieces are in play, at least on the offensive side. Now go win, at the very least, the NFC East and do some damage in the playoffs. But, I mean, kind of going back to your point, obviously the comparison's coming up with Patrick Mahomes. And, yes, he is a good quarterback. Dak Prescott, that is, a great quarterback, however you want to say. He's a worthy starting quarterback. But the reason why Patrick Mahomes got that contract was because he just led his team to a Super Bowl that year before. Dak Prescott hasn't even come remotely close to doing that with the Dallas Cowboys, despite having all these weapons. So it's, again, I'm not suggesting that he is not potentially a top 5 quarterback even in the NFL. It's just, this is the kind of money that you expect to be paid for somebody that's already at least proven that they've done something when it comes to results, because that is the bottom line and what's expected of these players, especially in the quarterback position, when it comes to showing your worth and getting that pay, or at least what I feel like that's what it should be. There has been examples. In fact, a comparison was made earlier today that I kind of agree with was Kirk Cousins is actually a good example or a good comparison in that never really was didn't really have the greatest success beforehand, but went to Minnesota. They paid him a lot of money to be their starting quarterback, and he's done all right, but he certainly has not been worth the hundreds of millions of dollars that they paid him. It feels like there is potential for that to be here with Dak Prescott. And again, that's not even talking about the injury that he just suffered. What about that? Obviously, I'm sure they did their due diligence, but the dude broke his leg in a pretty gruesome manner when it came to that game that we were watching this last season. So I don't know. I definitely have gone so many different directions. I lean towards this feels like a little bit of paying, like Jerry Jones really getting fond of the relationship that he has with him, like he did with Tony Romo. And it's probably not, I'm not going to sit here and expect Dallas Cowboys to go far in the playoffs just because of this.
I mean, Breaky, you said it. You said, it's not like he hasn't had weapons around him, tools around him. Like, he's had a strong offensive line. He's had Ezekiel Elliott. And you talk pre-injury. I mean, he wasn't blowing it out of the park then. Like, he wasn't blowing it out of the water then. So what about this contract? Is it just like now he's all of a sudden going to have a Patrick Mahomes type season or lead the Cowboys to the Super Bowl? Like, it's not like he hasn't had a bad team around him up to this point and pre-injury. So what was missing? Like, why hasn't he succeeded? So I don't know how, locking this in is like going to make it better, because it's not like he's been depleted, on the offensive side around him. So we'll be very, I'm glad that it's done so people can move on and stop talking about it in a lot of ways, but it's, it's an interesting one. So
there was a joke that who was it? Tony Kornheiser of PTI made yesterday, actually talking about this as well. That the First Take show with Stephen A. Smith and Max Corman. It's like, what are they going to talk about for a majority of the show now? Because they've been talking about Dak Prescott for the last 2 to 3 years, it feels like. And when is he going to get paid? Well, he's finally gotten paid. You got to change the subject now.
Well, he's got a lot to live up to now.
Yeah.
Now that this is a deal. So we'll see how this all plays out. Speaking of deals, Russell Wilson came out expressing an interest in potentially being traded, and actually was kind enough to provide a short list of destinations that he wouldn't mind going to, those of which included Chicago, Dallas, which I think we can cross off the list now, the Las Vegas Raiders, and the New Orleans Saints. So 3 of these 4 teams, I suppose, left in some sort of contention. The Bears, by far, being the most desperate of them all. But actually, we have our poll question today, and it's, do you think Russell Wilson will actually leave Seattle? So we encourage you to vote if you haven't yet. But I have to be honest with you, I don't see him leaving Seattle.
It's he's one of those players. It would feel very odd to see him on another team, right? Well, like reminds me of Aaron Rodgers in that sense. It's like it would just feel odd seeing Aaron Rodgers on another team. It felt odd seeing Tom Brady on
Kinda
another
like Tom
team.
Brady.
Yeah, and here he is winning coming
It
out
can
that
be
Super Bowl.
done.
Exactly. So I guess to your point, yeah. So if Russell Wilson goes to the Detroit Lions, we'll take him and lead us to Super Bowl. Then I'll take that. No.
You have a new quarterback. I think you're good.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Russell Wilson. I mean, Goff's all right, I guess, but I wouldn't mind Russell Wilson. No, but yeah, I lean towards I'm kind of with you, but man, how Russell Wilson, I guess his agent in this case, it's almost laughable, right? It's like, yeah, no, we don't want to, we really want to be in Seattle. We want to stay, but here's teams that we want to go to. If you happen to think about it, it's just like, come on. They're beating around the bush, and obviously I'm sure they're also looking at the Deshaun Watson situation in Houston and saw how that reaction's been and how he's been openly saying, I do not want to play for this team.
But Russell didn't do what Deshaun did.
Okay.
And I think that's really important. Deshaun saying basically that he's like not playing for the Texans, and Russell's like, I could stay here, but I could also go elsewhere. It's not this, not expressing so explicitly that a dislike towards an organization.
It's
like Deshaun.
It is, but I don't know. See, I kind of look at it a little differently. It's like, yeah, he's not bluntly saying it, but that's kind of my point. It's like he's just
politer version.
Yeah, a much more polite version, sure, if you want to put it that way. But ultimately, he certainly is saying he wants to be traded. I mean, you don't tell your employee, I want to work at these other companies if I happen to leave. It's just that's not how it goes. But I again, it does go back to. I do feel like we're still going to see him in Seattle because I think one of the biggest things is Seattle's probably going to be demanding a lot, as they should be, for the quarterback and the caliber player that Russell Wilson is. And I just don't know if there is going to be a team out there that's going to be willing to give into that in the end. So
this all took a turn so incredibly fast. It was just a few months ago that we were sitting right here basically locking in, saying game over, Russell Wilson's going to be the MVP of the league this year.
Yep.
The way he started off the NFL season, he was having an insane year. And then halfway through, it just definitely took a turn. So it sort of makes you, question and wonder what's going on internally there. And the exact changes that were made and what happened.
Yeah.
Because everybody seemed pretty hunky-dory in the first half of the season.
Seattle.
Something has changed.
Yeah, Seattle seems like one of those organizations, the Seahawks, it's like they're cheery, things are going well, and they've had a lot of recent success even to an extent, and ownership's great. Pete Carroll's an awesome coach, a player's coach. Like, yeah, well, where did this go wrong? It's one of those you would love to be a fly on the wall when it comes to how this all played out, but not the case. We'll probably never know in the end. It's just a matter of does he go or does he not? But yeah, again, I lean towards probably going to be staying.
All right, well, we'll check in with our poll here in a little bit and see what our viewers think as well. Lastly, moving on to Chicago, doesn't seem like Mitch Trubisky is going to be the guy moving forward. All signs are pointing elsewhere. Talked this week about the Bears being prepared to throw essentially a boatload of picks out to get potentially Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson, maybe Russell Wilson, who knows. But there's still a few other names out there floating around that you could see making moves, one of which being Sam Darnold from the Jets, Jimmy Garoppolo, 49ers. There could be some like shifting and shaking here within active quarterbacks. A lot of different options for Chicago. I don't really know how this one's going to play out. It's kind of a mess.
It is, as it kind of goes back to just this year, especially when it comes to the NFL, the offseason, the quarterback situation continues to be quite active. I was trying to double check on where they actually are in the NFL draft, but either way, the point being, obviously, the draft is certainly another avenue that they'll be looking at, likely to be a trade at that point. for one of the higher picks if it comes to that. I don't think they're going to be getting a Trevor Lawrence by any means, but somebody else is certainly I could see happening as well. But I honestly like the Sam Darnold option personally, because Sam Darnold, I think we even had a conversation about him before. It feels like he was in a no-win situation with the Jets when he was drafted there in the first place, and that organization has just been complete dumpster when it comes to just the managerial side and especially the coaching side that they've had to deal with for the last couple of years now. So it almost feels like Sam Darnold just really hasn't been given a true opportunity, especially being a number one pick quarterback. And I could see with him still being very young and everything, the guy was an awesome college quarterback. There's a reason where he went where he did. He's one that I would, if I happen to be a Chicago fan, I would believe to be happy with him coming over. But
one, I guess we'll call it I don't know if conspiracy theory is the right word, but
scenario.
Let's go with that. Scenario. There we go. One thing I saw today I thought was interesting. It's it could be a stretch, but I saw somebody predicting that the 49ers get rid of Jimmy Garoppolo and take Sam Darnold from the Jets, and then Jimmy's free. He could then go to the Bears, and he is an Illinois native, so he could go home to the Bears. But then that would put him essentially back on the same side of things with the Patriots, having come from there. But potentially, maybe Sam takes Jimmy's spot, and Garoppolo ends up back at home in Illinois, according to this writer, as another possibility. But I think for the Bears, at the end of the day, I personally would lean towards getting a quarterback. There's some good quarterbacks out there that could be looking for new homes, bring somebody in with experience versus trying to trade up in the draft to bring somebody in that's a rookie. Again, I think get somebody with experience.
You could always see if Jay Cutler wants to come out of retirement, come back to the good old days of what he had with Chicago. So no, probably not going to happen.
Probably not. The only person that comes out of retirement is Gronk.
Is he? Yeah, that's actually a good point. Like I said,
I don't know.
Do we even know if he's going to be playing again? No one really knows. He probably doesn't even know. Last minute, he's going to be like, sure, I'll play.
I think he just wants to hang out with Tom.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah. Got that bromance.
Keep the party rolling. All right. I think that's enough NFL. I imagine we'll continue talking about this next week as well. We'll see what develops. Moving on, though, to the NBA in light of the Ultimate Rivals court announcement last week. There's been some fun stuff going on in the NBA this week with the All-Star game, which we anxiously awaited to see if it was going to happen, and it did, and it seems to have gone off without a hitch, minus the obvious of fans being in attendance. But I personally enjoyed watching it. I thought it was okay. Broke it up a bit. It was good. I liked watching the skills competitions, as always. But what kind of stuck out to you about the All-Star game? Did it do it for you this year compared to years past?
So what I did like about it was the condensed format of having it all involved in a shorter window, because usually they spread it out between Saturday and Sunday, and it's much earlier on in the day for like the skills competition and stuff, where like this, like it started maybe like an hour and a half before the actual All-Star game started. They did the skills competition, they did the 3-point contest, then they went into the game, and then at halftime they did the dunk contest. So I liked that. It made it kind of just a one whole event that you could actually enjoy rather than having to break it up throughout the day, because that seems a little ridiculous. So yeah, I love that part of it. I will say though, the competitions themselves, I think the 3-point contest was probably the best one to watch, and Steph Curry, as always, awesome to watch, and not surprisingly,
crazy. I thought he wasn't gonna get it.
Yeah, it was close. It actually came down to the wire, but he did win it in the end. So that was fun to watch. But yeah, the skills competition is like, most of them weren't even trying. I mean, Luka literally didn't even take off his warm-ups. He's just like, yeah, all right, whatever.
It's kind of sad looking. Like this, like dribbling through the
It was
cone.
yeah.
Like, come on.
I said that to my wife. I'm like, really? Like, what are they? This is the skills. Come on, you pass the ball, you dribble, do a layup, which every NBA player, apparently Chris Paul can't. But
it looks like halftime at a sporting event when you have like two 5-year-olds out there, like who can dribble to the other end of the court
that's
faster
what it was.
and whirl around 3 times and lay it up.
I will say I called the winner. My wife can vouch for that. I did call Sabonis to win it, actually. I don't know why. It's something about it. I was like, I think Sabonis is going to win this thing. And sure enough, he won it. So not that it really meant much. But if
you're looking to make any bets this weekend, message Breaky. Yeah, you can see ahead into the future. Clearly.
Yeah, but I mean, again, overall, it was fun to watch, in that I liked how everything was kind of together. The game itself, it had its moments. It was entertaining. The alley-oops, Giannis going 16 of 16. That was actually kind of crazy, including the 3-pointer. So, unfortunately, it wasn't as close, especially as last year's. So it certainly wasn't as dramatic. But it still was fun to watch. And the dunk contest was forgettable, to be frank, but it happened, I guess.
I would agree. I think 3-point contest was the best. I could live with just having that and the dunk contest each year. Like the condensed format, thought it was cool. Of course, Team LeBron wins, because when doesn't LeBron win? And that
team was stacked.
That's a stat.
I sent out a tweet when the teams were announced, because I know we didn't do a show last week either, but that I was like, did LeBron get the first 4 picks in this draft or something? Because literally, I mean, the first 4 player, I was like, how did he get this lineup compared? And then on top of that, Embiid and Simmons, who were supposed to play for Team Durant, didn't because of COVID concerns, precautions, I guess you should say, because apparently they both use the same barber, and their barber tested positive for COVID. So
unlucky.
Yeah. Well, could you imagine, Haley, that this scenario was brought up, that if the NBA did not catch that, and if, God forbid, they ended up having COVID from the haircut situation, and they all went and played against the best of the best players in the NBA, and suddenly all your star athletes have COVID, like, what would happen to the NBA? So that was one of the reasons why
we have a lot of people regretting that they decided to actually play the All-Star game this year, which is what we talked about for weeks leading into this. Is it worth it?
That would not have been worth it. But I think they did. Obviously, we won't truly know until the weeks to come.
Know.
But yeah, or maybe never know in the end. But again,
speaking of stacked teams, how about them Nets? They can't stop adding to what is already a roster filled with big names. So if Harden, Durant, and Irving weren't enough, they decided to do a deal with 6-time All-Star Blake Griffin. So he is now on the Brooklyn Nets as well. And when does it stop? I mean, this team, if they're not in the NBA championship, like, I'm going to kind of feel bad for them at this point. Like, they keep adding.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's honest. Philadelphia is playing very well this season too. So, but I am with you that the Nets are the front runners. Certainly, even before this transaction, they were the front runners out of the East. I will say it's kind of this is one of those transactions that's, you do have to kind of take a step back and think, okay, yeah, Blake Griffin, an amazing player, great. He's a double machine. He's a slam jam kind of player. Good post player, decent defender. That was 4 to 5 years ago. It's been a little bit since we've really seen the Blake Griffin in prime, and he's been in Detroit this last couple of years. And let's just say that hasn't been the greatest itself. So I am a little hesitant to sit here and truly act like that this was like a big move for the Brooklyn Nets. It was the least impressive of all the moves that they've certainly made, but perhaps one that'll help them at least in the long run, I guess.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's another player that I mean, even if you have a player like Blake Griffin coming in off the bench, he's going to give you some good minutes and be impactful. Mm-hmm. So it can't hurt, right?
I mean, I hope not. Yeah.
It can't hurt.
He's not a player that should mess up their synergy, like we thought might have been the case with James Harden. So I think that's what you're kind of getting at. It's
Right.
like, yeah, that was definitely a very real possibility. Obviously, that's not the case. That's worked out beautifully. And Blake Griffin, yeah, he will be coming off the bench, though, certainly. It does remind me a little bit of Dwight Howard, to be fair, where last year with the Lakers, there was a lot of questions like, oh, why are they getting Dwight Howard? He's way over his prime. What is he going to do for you? He played significant minutes in the playoffs and was actually a legitimate reason as to why they won the championship. So I mean, I suppose I could see that being a possibility with Blake Griffin.
Yeah, it's it's almost it's interesting because the fact that he chooses the Nets, because if he's like looking to go to a team where he's gonna get a lot of minutes, probably not the most obvious choice.
No, he's chasing a ring for sure.
Yeah, so you know what? Good for him. He's been in the league a while, and
yeah, how long has he been?
Hopefully he's a good addition.
Real quick, there was one stat. It was, he's only 31 years old, so he's actually not as old as I thought he was. But
what is old anymore in sports?
That's fair. There was a stat that I heard. I don't have the exact one in front of me, but it was something like, it's kind of mind blowing when you think of Blake Griffin. You think of like a dunk machine, right? He is the only player that's over 6 feet 8 inches tall since 2019 to not have a dunk in an NBA game. That's crazy. Like, this guy he built his early career on being a high flyer dunker, and he actually has not had a slam dunk since 2019. Early 2019.
Love to ask him why.
He played for Detroit, unfortunately. The rim, you get a little sicker on the rim when you play Detroit late, at least. So
that's what happens.
Yeah. Scared of it. Anyways.
Well, 2021 is a new year for everybody, so maybe it will be Griffin's year to end that cold streak. And 2020 wasn't a slam dunk, so maybe 2021 will be for him.
But
all right, let's spotlight one of the athletes in Ultimate Rivals, because that's what we do each week. And in the spirit of basketball and the court coming out, while you can play Ultimate Rivals the Rink, the franchise's hockey game at this time, you can actually add a player like Zion Williamson to your team.
Let me pull it up here real quick.
Breaky's going to pull it up, but Zion is a player that, I loved watching Zion Breaky in college at Duke. He was so much fun to watch. Not your typical body type per se for an NBA player, but he is certainly a strong force.
Yeah.
No matter what sport he's playing, and I imagine that will translate very well to video games.
He really,
especially this one.
Yeah, he definitely could have been, like, dare I even say, an offensive lineman in football if he actually went the football route. I mean, his build is definitely quite bulky, but hey, he makes it work.
Quite bulky.
Yeah, he makes it work though when it comes to his play in the NBA, and honestly, it is a deserving All-Star nominee, a nod in the end. Of course, it was last minute, but he got in. So, anyways, here you go. This is what we're looking at as far as what he can do in the court. He's actually, as far as the court goes,
we're looking at the rink, right? This is the rink.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is the.
It's okay. That's what I'm here for.
There's been a lot of court hype lately, so this is the rink, though. But yeah, so when it comes to the rink and what he's able to do in the hockey rink, his skating's actually really good. His top speed is, which I will say, when you watch him actually play basketball, his speed feels like it's pretty slow. And the way he just jogs, but he actually can run pretty fast when he goes, when he has those bursting moments. So his top speed is good, his handling and turbo is really good. Shooting is actually very good as well, especially when he gets close to that net. And I think that translates well too, because he's actually one of the highest field goal percentages in the league in the NBA. But he's not one to pass, but certainly is willing to shoot. So yeah, pairing him with a solid passer is a good play.
Well, there you have it. Zion Williamson playing ice hockey in Ultimate Rivals, but soon we'll be able to get to play his native sport in Ultimate Rivals, the court, which, man, it's going to be fun to watch him in that game as well, along with so many other players. Breaky, of all the players that are coming out in the court, like, which one are you most excited to, like, give it a go on your team?
There's definitely a couple that come to mind, and you know what? Since we showed him last night, I guess I can bring it up. Shaq, a long time. I've been a huge Shaq fan for the longest time, and you think of a player that obviously can throw down slam dunks and tear that rim down, and so appropriately in the court. He's one to do that. So I do look forward to playing him. Certainly. I'm trying to think of like football players, like a JJ Watt is certainly going to be fun as well. Seeing how he'll translate into the court and seeing some of these other sports in general and how they do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting. We've had over 60 athletes to choose from up to this point, and once we get into Ultimate Rivals, the court will have over 100 athletes to choose from. So that's pretty crazy to think about. You could be making 3-on-3 teams for the entire year and have new combos. So that's exciting. Why don't we pull up our poll before we close out the show today? Did we get any votes this week?
Let's just not. Should we? Well, to be fair, I think it's bugged. I do think it's because I literally did my vote and it still says 0 votes to 0 votes. I don't know. Something's weird. It's not actually.
It's not us. It's them.
It's them. Fine. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. There's also not.
Well,
working,
that's okay. So. We'll assume that the votes poured in and too many to count.
Yes, we'll go with that. Yes, too many to count. I think I would lean towards no because, like I said, he just feels like one of those players. It's just so hard to see him on another team, and they're going to ask for too much. They're going to expect too much in the end. So those are my reasons.
I think that everyone felt that way as well. So it was a landslide vote.
Yeah.
For Russell Wilson staying in Seattle, and we'll keep tracking on it.
Yeah,
Breaky, any final thoughts before we say goodbye here today and continue on with this Wednesday?
It's NFL news. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about as we talk about with next week's show. NCAA, though. March Madness, it's coming up. We're pretty much, because I think this weekend is the finals of a lot of the conference championships, and then by
the ACC men's tournament going on right now.
Yep, the Big Ten's going to be happening, so it's gonna. I've actually, I don't know if you have as well, but I've been tuning into a little bit of college basketball, something like Michigan and some of the Big Ten games especially, and so it's I know we've talked about it before, and so it's a fun time of the year. It really is with March Madness, and I can't wait for it.
I'm looking forward. We'll have to do a bracket here once we the conference tournaments wrap up, obviously. The last quote unquote bracket didn't go so well for you, must I remind you?
No, you should.
For the NFL playoffs. So this might be a chance for redemption. However, I do think that I'm just feeling this way because it's been a funky year. Teams that we're used to seeing, I don't know, between COVID having an impact and just teams that we're used to seeing dominate, just being a little more sporadic and all over the place. I think we're going to see a lot of upsets this year, and I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I
more than usual.
I 100% agree, and if you didn't say it, I would have. I feel exactly the same way because of just what's been going on this year. It does seem. I mean, hell, we just had Michigan State beat Michigan and a couple other teams going down the stretch there when they were doing very poorly, probably not even going to make the bracket the way they were playing, but they probably are now. But yeah, point is, anything can happen, honestly. I don't know if I see Gonzaga necessarily staying undefeated going all the way. I really don't think I see that. So that's another story we'll talk about, I'm sure, next week as well. But King Bear in chat, by the way.
Gonzaga. It's a
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga.
I say Gonzaga.
There's a video that breaks it down for you, and this reporter goes around asking people, how do you pronounce this university? And everyone goes back and forth saying Gonzaga and Gonzaga, and at the end they tell you which is correct.
Is it Gonzaga?
It is Gonzaga.
That's such a weird name. It's one of those words. It's one of those words when you you say it over and over. You're like, what? Where did this word even come from? Gonzaga. Like, what does that even mean? That's weird.
What is a Gonzaga?
Yeah. Ask your Alexa there. Wait.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, basketball is going to be good. Another great addition to our Wednesday talks, I'm sure. And we can have some basketball on in the background as we go through what's going on in sports. But I love March Madness. It's awesome. I know it'll be missing some of the fans this year, but I'm just glad that they're doing it because it's been 2 years since we've got to do this. How crazy is that?
It's true. The year off.
Crazy.
Before we do wrap up, though, King Bear, shout out to you for tuning in. And he once again wants us to put the mustache Minshew, Garden Minshew, into the game. So I can't make any promises, but we'll see. We'll see what we end up putting in there. Stream more of the court.
I'm a huge fan of the Minshew stash. I think we've talked about this before, but Gardner actually played football at my college before going to Washington State and transferring there. So it was always fun kind of following where he went in his career, but something tells me he might not be starting this year.
No, probably not.
Sorry, Bear.
Best of luck to him.
Doesn't mean he wouldn't make a great character in a game, though.
That's true. He's got that swag going for him, as he says, yeah.
Very swaggy. Yeah, exactly.
All
right. Well, great to have those of you with us today on Ultimate Rivals Sports Talk. We'll be back here with you next Wednesday. Until then, hope you have a great week. Thanks, Breaky, as always, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.